we're talking about shit and death. We're talking about the city. We're talking about the concrete. And we're talking about how we've been disconnected from these very intrinsic processes in the great trinity of a forest. So drop us right in. Let's do it.
Yeah. So a forest, it's one of my goals. You were asking me about food forestry. It's one of the reasons I was born, was to inspire the planting and to have the hands-on planting of as many food forests as I can in the cities around our earth, because living on concrete, I'm a night owl, I stay up all night. So, you know, having artificial light, not killing our food, not even our plants barely, not dealing with our shit. These things can make us feel like we are above nature, like you know, the rules and the balances, the checks and balances of nature don't apply to us, and it's just not true. A food forest is an opportunity for people in the city living on concrete to get the opportunity to actually live in alignment and next to a self-sustained, thriving ecosystem that is based on and actively living interdependence, diversity, and nourishment. It gives people a chance to watch how that system works, because we no longer have the visual cues anymore. Like, we're literally not seeing what honoring interdependence, let's say what honoring diversity for interdependence really looks like anymore. You know, we putting it into documentation and say diversity is having a certain amount of highly melanated people at your office. And then people don't want to talk about diversity anymore. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to talk about it because they're like, man, that's stupid. I don't, you know, blah, blah. But diversity is a requirement. And to honor each other's diversity. Now this is my favorite part about a forest, though. It's going to get me to honor your particular structure. But before I actually even get to honoring this particular structure, and then we can look to the zodiac for this as well. So I'm working on a book right now called Astrology in the Garden. It's going to help people find the zodiac in a food forest or in a garden. So I'm going to intertwine some of that into this as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, astrology is a big language that we can use to understand actually the cycles on our earth as well, right? As above, so below is true.
Below, that's right. Yeah,
it's true. So, oh shoot, where was I saying? Where was I going? I was going to talk about the beginning. Before I can serve my community, there's something that me, individual, that I have to do. And the interdependence is always with a capital I. Before we can even get into anything of the ecosystem, the I self, the individual plant, the genetics of the particular being that is growing, whatever ecosystem we're in, must be being, what's the word I'm looking for? Lived out to the best of its ability. So when you go into the garden and you watch a plant, let's say you watch a brand new baby plant burst through the earth, that plant has all of the genetic and energetic, every single capability that it needs to become the adult version of itself, ultimately dying back and giving back to the earth, everything in that plant. And that plant's individual dedication to being the best version of itself is what makes the entire system as strong as it can be. So if the individual plant is not its strongest, then the whole system is weak inherently. That's the lesson of a food forest, right? Like, as a plant growing, let's say at the beginning of the zodiac, we call this the Aries. You know, this is the beginning of the zodiac. It's the energy of Aries. It's the energy of spring, although I do challenge that being the beginning of the zodiac, actually. But we'll just say, let's say spring, and the energy of spring in alignment with Aries. My mom's an Aries, so I know Aries is real. that that vigor to be alive, that selfishness
Yes.
self path of this is my life, I got to do it my way. It's required for you to reach, let's say, the 12th house subconscious or the rebirth of life and be prepared to sacrifice everything for the next generation. It's required that we start with I and do the best I can do. And then we slowly become more aware of our environment around us. And that's the path really of the zodiac. It's a beautiful journey through the year, becoming more aware of our community and serving and doing these other things. But it starts with the I, it starts with the self. And then from there, once we're dedicated to being the best version of ourselves, then we can start to show up in those diverse interdependent relationships, at least more consciously. We're doing it anyways, but
more fully.
Yeah, because it's the awareness. Like, see, that's the thing with the city, right? They has us thinking we're not living interdependent, nourishing, diverse relationships, but we're doing it anyways. We're an ecosystem. Every cell in our body is doing it. Every ecosystem is doing it, So it's just being aware of it, so that when I meet a new soul, I can honor that soul, and I can make sure that I show up in my relationships with that awareness that I'm here to actually nourish you, and maybe in my death. So in my darkest days, I still might have food for you.
Wow. Yeah. Right. And I never really considered the idea that, and I mean, I know that gardening has been such a nourishing activity for people through this, experience that, this loneliness that people have been living through the past year. And I never really considered how we use the forest, or how we can learn from the forest as a model for how to treat other humanity and other life with respect and kindness and understanding. And thank you for illuminating that, because I know how taking care of plants has restored my soul, and the lessons that I learned from them and the language that they've attuned me to having has helped me be more available and into other life forms. But I don't live in a place where there is a forest nearby. I've never encountered a food forest before. And I know there are many kids my age and younger, and I'm 25, and I just got into community gardens and things in my college years, and was seeing how intrinsic we are to encountering land and encountering the soil and seeing sprouting and watching the cycle of life through plants. But shouldn't be a privilege, but it is. I'm in a very privileged position to see that. Many people my age will never even see that, in their entire lifetime. But I want to honor you for illuminating not only the connections that we have on the physical, that we are physically being encouraged to participate in diversity, nourishment, and interdependence, but psychologically and emotionally and psychospiritually, it's happening. And maybe when we become more conscious and aware of how we associate and relate with other people more consciously, more awarely, that we can live as a more vibrant and a much more cohesive network of life form as our human family. Because we are, like you said, only as strong as the first sprouts of us. Like the vibrant individual, is kind of the unit of strength that we could really measure in. So I've heard from liberation psychology, and that's where actually a lot of my heart is in mental health. Liberation psychology teaches us that if one of us is not free, we are all not free. If one of us is not thriving, we are all not thriving. And that really, I'm seeing that reflected now in your teaching about the forest and in teaching about because that one individual is giving its best and it has within it its highest effort, that that's happened in every part of the forest. So if one is feeling it, its progeny and its surrounding will feel that not even been given the chance to give 100% of itself. So have you seen people's interaction with the food forest benefit their mental health? I'd like to maybe weave it in that direction and see how the astrology of people, the astrology of the garden, and the spirituality in the garden has nourished people's lives that you've been in direct relationship with. Because I know that the even just being a part of a community garden really saves me from addiction.
Yeah, I've seen tons and tons and tons, really. I've been researching food forests for so long now that, I mean, honestly, it's the only real solution that I believe, that we kind of have. Like whatever climate situations are happening, food forestry stops, slows or stops that.
Yeah,
Food security, it slows or stops that.
yeah.
Uh, Depletion of our soils, it slows and stops that. So every single thing for me, at least, all the challenges I've been able to find, food forestries are true solutions all the way down to the mental, emotional, spiritual health. So tons and tons and tons.
Who's doing really good food forestry right now? Like, who do you know in the world? If someone's like, I don't know anything about food forestry, how do they get started and how do they find that and foster that in their community, or like support what's already happening? Because I know this is happening. So how do we get involved?
It is, yeah. And every local community is going to be very different because a food forest is based on the plants that are native to your community and to your part of the world. So it's very, very different. There's a couple different levels. If you're ready to just go out there and get your hand into it, we have the World Wide Web. So I would just like go on to Facebook and search local food forests in my town. Because there's one being planted, it's going to come up. They're promoting it. It's out there. If there aren't any, or if you're not ready to go out there and you're a learner, you're a Virgo rising, you want to know some knowledge first. Permaculture is kind of a wider study of food forestry. And I got to do my justice to directing people to permaculture versus just food forestry. Because it's much more than just building or just planting plants and trees. It's actually understanding the entire way that the earth works with forests, and being able to tune into that energetic experience. So permaculture, there are definitely local permacultures in a big town near you, for sure, in a big city near you. Southern California, it's all over. And, I'm in the desert, so there's, 15 prominent local food forests here on personal property. Jake Mace, we were just out at Green Life Nursery that is got all the tropicals. It's amazing what you can grow in the desert. It depends on where you're at. You want to find a local community in your town that's talking about permaculture or food forestry. Permaculture seems to be something that people are speaking about more commonly. And honestly, my real, I have to be true to myself. Start talking to trees.
Good place to start.
Start talking to trees. Start telling the earth, actually, to all of her, whatever calls to you. Start telling the earth that you want true solutions to help society be happier, more liberated, whatever it is. And be honest and speak to earth and her beings as equals, and they'll respond, and they'll give you your own direction.
So beautiful. That's wonderful advice. Thank you so much. I know people will appreciate I appreciate the practical, how do I apply myself today? In what small ways can I interact every day? And those are wonderful. So reach out to your local permaculture folks in your local community. Speak to trees, start talking to Mother Earth and the elements of Earth. as equals, you know? And I love that. Thank you so much for those pieces. And something has come up around permaculture, around regenerative agriculture as being this like whitewashed hope, as this like, you know, the white savior future. How, as a melanated woman, a woman of color, see yourself in this agricultural space, in this permaculture space, talking about soil health and, you know, watching the science happen, and then also watching how important it is for the community, how intrinsic it is to Indigenous peoples to return to their space on the plain. You know, do you have any words about that? Because I don't want to not address that issue.
Yeah, for sure. We're actually working on a local one here too in town on a reservation. So
Yeah.
definitely keep your loop on that. You know what? I don't know. I think I'm a little different from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care, to be honest with you. Like, yeah, you know, this type of just even just the luxury to sit around and learn about permaculture. You know what I mean? For sure, it's you know, whitewashed or highly, you know, Eurocentric and all that. But here you and I are talking about it, you know, right. And you and I are, and many women and men like us that have all different shades of melanin running through them, or quantities or textures or whatever you consider it, doing the work and spreading it through our community and empowering our community.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think that it's really important for me to honor what she has already birthed. You know, I think unfortunately the city makes us think that we could have a utopia that doesn't include death and shit. It's not true. We can't have life without death and shit. You know, we have to accept that. We can't think that we're going to get rid of it. Yeah. So if it's your fight to clean up shit and to stop death, then you have to be that true to yourself. You know, you have that inner calling, and you have to listen to your inner calling, and you have to dedicate your life to being your best self with your inner calling. It's not everybody's calling to deal with death and shit, though. You know, some of us are called to deal with plants, and some of us are healers, and some of us are solution-based people. And I've been gifted a heart and a consciousness and an experience. You know, I was drugged through the dirt as a young person, and so I was gifted the experience to learn compassion and to learn solution-based living. So I don't really care, man. Like, what I care about is the fact that there are solutions, and that she is not only birthing them every day in the earth, but she births them in us. I am alive. So I believe in my own ability to bring solutions to the earth. And I'm talking to you, and you're freaking so resilient and so committed to your work that I look at you and I'm like, well, there's another gift that she gave to us to rebirth the earth, to heal. And then I look at everyone around me and I shake, because I realize, oh my God, you guys, we have everything we need to change everything. Like, look at the people around us. We have everything we need. So yeah, it is. And, I don't know, but that doesn't work in all communities. You know, I think that being a biracial person puts me at a particular, you know, marginalization in a lot of these conversations. And I have to be true to myself. And my truth is that race isn't real. It's a societal construct that was made to divide you and make you believe that you are a history and a past. That is a bunch of bullshit. You can't even believe the history they told you. And if race was real, my white mom and black dad would have made a new race. I'd be a new race, and I'm not. So I take it as a gift to be in the middle and to help bridge. Yes. Because death and shit was not going away. So
I love that. Thank you so much for that beautiful answer and that beautiful perspective, because it is so refreshing. I really feel like straddling these worlds, you know, as a mixed race person, always straddling these worlds of, you know, indigenous Mexican, Black, and Italian. And so there's lots of different perspectives. And it is such a gift to be able to see, you know, through many different lenses at this larger movement. And I'm so happy that you just bring this up, that because these people have done the work of the research and the sitting, and in their privilege been given and a lot of the time to be able to research this, we now have this information, and that we can disseminate it through our spaces and do the work that we need to do with it as a tool, you know. And that's really what it's all about. Is honestly, it doesn't matter how it gets to us, it is, what matters is how we use it. And
Well, and it was stolen though too. I want to make sure to say it was stolen, right? Because this is original man knowledge. So it's not, you know, there are people out there that are here to fight those that steal from us. And I want to support them. I want to make sure they have the nourishment to do their job, because it was stolen, right? It's just, I'm not, although I have a lot of Aries in me, I'm not that fighter. You know what I mean? So it's like, from my perspective, my job is to raise up babies that do it, you know, or whatever it is, you know. Because it was stolen. It's not to take away from that.
No, and it was stolen, forgotten, not taught. And now we are remembering, we are coming back to that. You know, our First Nations people did regenerative before regenerative was a word, you know, that we used to talk about. It was a life way. It was how to be on the earth, you know, and to your babies will grow up having it become more of a second nature experience for them than a relearning or like a learning kind of thing. And I'd love to talk about, if we can, maybe our final subject, at least for this talk, because I have a feeling we're going to talk again, but how motherhood, you know, weaves into, you already kind of mentioned this, that, you know, as a mother, we intrinsically start to look around and we say, how, you know, how does the earth support our mothering, you know, and the foraging begins, and the foraging really gets like so deeply established. And I remember now growing as a child of my mother, who is an Italian plant person and raised on a farm, and who comes from many generations of plant ladies that can identify whatever is growing in around their home, you know, on the hillside, and they know when these plants grow, and they, you know, make their foods out of whatever is around them. You know, she's walking with, and I'm maybe 4 or 5 years old, and she's just picking up leaves here, and she said, this is good for this, and, you know, she's picking up this fruit, and she said, this is good for this. And in my heart and in my mind, actually my mind, I'm like, you know, you can't take this stuff, mom, like, that's not yours, like, you know. And she's like, this is for everyone, this is for everybody right here, this doesn't belong to nobody, like, this is, you know, this is for us to have. And it wasn't until now that I become a mom and quarantine happened, and so I'm raising my son in the first year, and we're going on walks, and I'm starting to see these plants, and I'm like, oh yeah, you can eat this, okay, I'm gonna harvest some rosemary, oh look at some junipers over here. And I'm becoming my mom, and I'm picking stuff up. And it seemed like motherhood activated in me a sort of magic, a sort of hyper awareness of my surroundings that I never really had experienced before. So my intuitive knowledge about plants was severely impacted by the opening of the portal of my womb, you know, to all of the cosmos. Felt like co-creating with God, co-creating with the universe. And now I've been given these incredible gifts of heightened sight, heightened hearing, heightened nose senses, to taste and other things, you know. And so, you know, was that an experience that you might have had, or did you already have this deep sense of knowledge? Or, you know, I'd love to hear about your mother too, and your family, and your matriarchal lineage, and how maybe plants weave their way into your matriarchal existence.
Yeah, that was so beautiful.
Thanks. I love my mom very much. I'm so grateful for her.
Yeah, she's super dope. To say first thing, it might be our charts. As you just described that, it was as if you were describing my experience becoming a mother. And there, I've actually read it in a few places in my charts, but my moon is in my fifth house, and it's kind of like certain magical parts of me don't get activated until I become a mom. So hearing you say that, I wonder if we share certain energies there, since we have half a chart the same, probably.
We'll chart it out.
Anyway, so that was just side note, but
yeah.
As you were saying, open the portal, my womb was opened. Your heart was as well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why for so many women, obviously this is not a universal experience from others, why so many women experience true spiritual alignment once they become mothers, or awareness. My mother didn't, but it's because of the unconditional love of our heart. You know, you never knew unconditional love until you become a mother. And I don't want to take away from women who do not become mothers, and to say they don't ever know unconditional love. So let me rephrase that. I didn't know unconditional love until I became a mother. You know, I think that I knew it for my mother, but that felt conditioned to sometimes. You know, it's that child that comes from you that truly aligns you with the actual love vibrancy of existence, which is unconditioned love. So I think that's massive.
Yes.
Yes, that is almost exactly what my experience was like. You know, I was on my own personal pathway to this, of course, and was prepared by the time I got to this. But by the time I got to motherhood, I had my daughter when I was 27 on the island of Hawaii at 11:22 p.m. And everything, it was as if, yeah, I just had to turn to the earth and say, please provide me that which I need to raise this most beautiful little girl that I kind of was a little scared I was going to mess up because of my mother relationship, and because of my mother's relationship, and because of that matriarchal, you know, deep line. My mother, though, also a plant person. Her mother, a plant person. My great grandmother was, I think, like half Cherokee, so probably was a plant person as well. My grandmother was said to have a green thumb. They said that she threw an avocado seed in her backyard and had an avocado tree that's actually still there right now. She was the first person who told me weeds were bad. Was my grandmother. She told me weeds were bad. And she's a Capricorn, so, you know, I get it.
Sounds like something Capricorn would say.
You know, weeds are bad, Cap. I get it. You kill all the weeds off. You know, I get it, Cappy. Cold. She was born in 1915 too, though. And in my studies of weeds, it was like in the 1920s that there was a very conscious effort to claim plants that are extremely resilient as weeds. Weeds are the most powerful plants on the entire earth. They're marginalized, just like any marginalized beings on our earth, and are literally under attack and have been for decades. And they heal you. Yeah.
Wow.
Grandmother, born in 1915, taught me weeds were bad, and we picked the weeds. My mother and I, very stressed relationship. My mother's an Aries. I'm a Pisces. If you're talking, if you know our astrology talk, you all can even imagine a Pisces child. Yeah. Being raised by an Aries mother.
Yeah.
She was very creative and pushed the creativity and allowed me to be my kind of out there self. But didn't connect me to plants at all. Like you were saying, we lived in San Diego in an apartment complex. I tell people on concrete, on top of concrete. I can remember a time in my early teen years throwing trash on the ground and literally saying, oh, that's somebody's job to pick it up. So I'm helping somebody have a job. Like that was the level of my preteen, you know, fucker, really. But so that's exactly what it was.
What a transformation you've made.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, by 17, I was a year and a half behind in school. I had an abortion. I was in juvenile hall with charges, and had a very interesting first part of my life. Crazy family. I actually just got a call. I wasn't, never mind. Crazy family. And yeah, that's what it was. Michaela was, you know, by the time I was your age, by the time I was 25, I was really confused as to what to do. I wanted to be homeless and live outside of society, totally live on the fringes of society.
Become a weed.
I am a weed. And that, you know, when you were asking me like about the Eurocentric, you know, perspectives of permaculture, I wanted to kind of say, girl, I'm a weed, so I don't give a fuck. Like, I do what I want to do. I'm not trying to cuss or apologize. I don't care. I'm a weed. You know, I'm a weed. I was given the actual physical structure to survive the attacks of an agricultural system, AKA, you know, pop culture, society, school, media. I was given the physical structure to survive that. I don't actually care what y'all are doing out there. I can survive. So I'm gonna keep surviving and do my job as long as I'm here. It was motherhood, baby. It was definitely motherhood that, you know, woke me out of the fear. So I started this conversation on IG with you saying that started with vegetarianism, veganism, this fear of our world coming to an end. And oh, it's so present in our culture now. Everyone is scared of the world coming to an end, or society coming to an end, or no food, no whatever. And I'm so grateful that my children woke me up out of that slumber of fear propaganda. Because every generation, there has been something that the generation feared would end the world. And I don't know why the previous generation doesn't catch on and tell the next generation, hey, they're messing with us. They told us that last generation too.
Right.
But for some reason, people are catching on. You know, like the planes in the sky. I was nursing my eldest son, watching these planes in the sky years ago. And I was watching these planes make X's in the sky and just put all these lines up and down and back and forth across our sky. And I was like, what is this? Like, this can't be natural. This can't be good. Like, what is going on? Then you do a little research and you hear people talk about, oh, you know, there's an attempt to poison us or to depopulate, all this fear.
Yeah.
And I do my research and I find out that the technology for these planes has been around, you know, the patents for these planes have been around since the 80s, since I was born. And actually there's nothing new about these planes. And actually, if you look around, perhaps there's some other manipulation going on, but most everything is the same. You know, we still have shit and we still have death and we still have darkness and we still have all the stuff that comes with the heavy, low vibrations of life because they exist. But for the most part, everything is the same. And for the most part, everything is okay. And that was the message that, you know, Spirit would gifted me. After I had my third child, actually, I had a Kundalini experience of energy entering through my head and making me laugh and cry kind of uncontrollably, because the message was, everything's okay. And I was laughing at myself because I had ever questioned, and I was crying because everything was okay. And I could finally feel that release, because once I wasn't scared anymore about dying, or really that's what it is, I could do my work. I could show up and I could do my work, and I could work every night, and I could do whatever I had to do to get my work out. And that to me is the big difference. You know, fear paralyzes. And so even if there is something real to be scared of, until you're at its door, it's a waste of your time. And ultimately, everything's okay until you die. So for me, at least.
And then even after that, it's still okay.
And I can't wait to see what happens
on the other side, girl.
know, and I think you come right back, you know, you come right back. So,
Yeah.
or some rebirth is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hope we are so lucid and so clear in our memory of when that happens, because I think in our experience with the fungus medicines have given that sense of levity and clarity around the decaying process, because that's really part of their medicine, is the medicine of decay, and that it's okay to decay. Man, I'm so in love with this conversation. Thank you so much for continuing, outside of Instagram. And I can't wait for the people to get this message, because you are dropping so many truth bombs and so many gems for us to pick up and put in our pocket and put in our heart. And I want to thank you again for this wonderful conversation. And I guess if I want to leave the people with a nugget of truth, honestly, that piece about fear that you just left was really big for right now, because people, like you said, are very afraid, and people are feeling like it's the end, and it really is not. It's far from it, really. We are on such a gradual evolution, just like any natural environment. There are ages, there are cycles, and we are in a great cycle. We are just participating, and I really see us with a higher perspective, someone who just is maybe a couple of layers out and just kind of looking at the whole thing as it's kind of unfolding, and how do we connect to you and your work? How do we give our energy in your direction so that you flourish, so that your gifts can come more abundantly? You said you're writing a book. That is exciting. So how do we find that when it happens? And how do we continue to receive your knowledge? Because you got a lot of it, girl. And how do we learn the weed way? Because it seems like you have really started to master it.
you're so beautiful. I appreciate you, sister. Thank you for all of your loving words. Yes, working on a book, Astrology in the Garden, probably the most exciting book I've ever written and planned. I'm so excited about it.
So cool. So cool.
You please find me Aligned with Plants on Instagram. I'm not super busy on Instagram. I'm more actually busy on Facebook.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, on Facebook. Aligned with Plants on Facebook as well. You can catch me at alignedwithplants.com. I have herbal products, herbal support there. Cookbook, a plant-based cookbook there, and a few other herbal books. Here7.com. I offer natal chart readings, all sorts of different consultations at seehere7.com. Astrology in the Garden, though, is going to be dope. I'm putting in a lot of my truth about things in there, and it's just a really it's a dope book. I'm excited about that.
Are you doing any pre-sales for the book yet? Or have an avenue for people to reserve a copy?
I will. I don't have it yet. It would be great to have had it for you already, right? I will, but I'm not close enough to being done with writing it yet to want to do that. But I have a set date of finishing it by my birthday, which is March 10th, and I'm pretty serious about that. Go Rising, yeah, we don't play. So I'm gonna hit that deadline.
That's right. I believe it. Doesn't my son's his birthday's on the 12th of March. So like, birthday present.
What is your sign?
Huh?
What's your sun sign? Your sun sign.
My sun sign?
Yeah.
I'm a Leo.
Leo and Pisces. Oh, I love it.
And we have a Scorpio sun.
Your sun is Scorpio?
Yeah, he's November 20th. Scorpio. He's also a life path 7. So when you said that, I'm like, okay, my boy's a 7. I'm a 4. Dad's a 3. So a 4 and a 3 made a 7, and that seemed wonderful. That seemed great.
Your son is high level communicator, analyzing everything all the time. He will probably mostly struggle from overthinking and overanalysis. And I would say to just talk to them as much as you can, because the way sevens thrive is just being able to talk about the things that we see.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you so
beautiful.
much. Beautiful piece of advice. I can't wait to get a natal chart from you and just connect with you and your offerings. And I really appreciate this conversation to be here. So please, I hope that we talk again. I see us talking again.
Let me direct your audience one more other place. So Align with Plants, Align with Health. Health was a podcast years ago that I did for about 4 years. And so the first 2 years, if you type in Align with Plants, Align with Health podcast, I think I'll actually give you a link. It might even be linked up to a new podcast name. But I have like hours of conversation all about plants online right now. So I will send you that. It's actually under Conversations with Friends. If you type that under Lanita Nash, my birth name, you see here on this screen, you'll find hours of a podcast that I did all about plants. So that's to like tune into all the food forestry stuff. Yeah.
Beautiful. Even if you send that to me directly, then I can link my people to it and then they can find it nice and easily. That's wonderful. And I'm so glad that you have already so much content out there, because I know people are going to love your work and people are going to love what you're talking about. So if people can keep diving into you, I know my community will be so nourished by your medicine. So thank you so much from San Diego to,
I thought you were in LA. You're in Dago? Hey!
We're in Dago, yeah.
That's beautiful.
So many connections here, but again, thank you so much. I can't wait to get this recording out there, and I can't wait to talk to you more. Thank you so much, See here, and we will see you later. Take care.
Thanks, Sister. I love you so much. I appreciate you.
Love. I appreciate you. Be well. Bye.